America, meet Senator Tom Coburn. Senator Coburn is a conservative Republican from Oklahoma, previously known outside Oklahoma, mostly for raising the rest of the country's collective eyebrows from time to time. Like in 2004, when Dr. Coburn told an AP reporter he thought that doctors who performed abortions should be executed. Or when at a campaign event the same year, he said it was impossible to use the bathrooms in many Oklahoma junior high schools nowadays because of what he called the rampant lesbianism. And of course, there was the time in 1997 when he denounced NBC for airing the movie Schindler's List. Before ultimately apologizing, he said the Oscar-winning Holocaust drama was just full of vile language, nudity, and violence. It was a film about the Holocaust. But Tom Coburn is now famous as the other senator in the still unfolding John Ensign sex scandal. Doug Hampton, the husband of the woman Senator Ensign admits to sleeping with, claims that Senator Coburn tried to negotiate an end to the affair, and that as part of those negotiations, Senator Coburn encouraged Senator Ensign to write that now public handwritten apology letter to his mistress and to pay her family restitution. Now, Dr. Coburn issued a statement today denying all of those allegations, saying, quote, "I was never present when the letter was written, never made any assessment of paying anybody anything. Those are untruths." But Dr. Coburn won't give any details on what he did say to Senator Ensign about the affair, because he says, quote, "I was counseling him as a physician and as an ordained deacon. That is privileged communication that I will never reveal to anybody, not to the ethics committee, not to a court of law, not to anybody." Given that Tom Coburn is an OB-GYN, it's not exactly clear in what capacity he might have been treating Senator Ensign. It's also not clear why his doctor-patient confidentiality would preclude him from answering questions about the Ensign affair, but would allow him to make lots of statements about the affair that portray himself in a really good light. And about the other hat that Dr. Coburn says he was wearing when he counseled Senator Ensign, that of deacon, well, that brings into focus a religious group that appears to be the connective tissue linking key players in this scandal. It's a secretive Christian organization known alternately as the Fellowship or the Family. They run a house known as C Street, where Senators Coburn and Ensign live together with other lawmakers in Washington, D.C. Doug Hampton talked about C Street and its members' role in the sex scandal between his wife and Senator Ensign in an interview yesterday with our previous guest, John Ralston of the Las Vegas Sun.
In February, you contact some people, and I believe they were affiliated with this Christian Fellowship organization, yes?
It's more about where they live and how these men operate in their life. They're great men. They have a good heart.
Why did you contact them?
Because they're close friends. They're a part of the men who live at C Street.
What did you want them to do?
Confront John.
So what exactly is C Street, and what is its role in the lives of Senators Ensign and Coburn and in the ongoing life of this scandal? Well, joining us now is Jeff Sharlet. He's a contributing editor at Harper's Magazine, and he's author of the book The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power. It's just out in paperback and is highly recommended by me personally. As part of the research for the book, Jeff lived among the family and saw many of its actions firsthand. Mr. Sharlet, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
What is C Street? I know it's a house on C Street in Washington. How is it part of the family?
Well, the C Street house is it's a former convent. Now it's registered as a church, and it's run by the family and used by them to provide housing for 6 to 8 congressmen at any given time, and to provide spiritual counsel to these congressmen, which all sounds fine so far. What makes it a little bit different than other Christian conservative organizations? Two things. You said that it's secretive. Indeed, the leader of the group describes it. He says, the more invisible you can make your organization, the more influence it will have. And the other thing is the nature of the influence they want to have. I got to sit in on one of these spiritual counseling sessions between the leader of the family and Congressman Todd Tiahrt when I visited the C Street house. I actually met Senator Ensign there. As the leader of the family was counseling Congressman Tiahrt, who had this very standard bill of issues related to the Christian right, and he said, you've got to have a bigger vision of what we're talking about here. He called it Jesus plus nothing, and he said it's a sort of a totalitarian idea of Christianity. Christianity. And he gave as examples men who he believed understood the way power should be wielded. He actually gave as examples Hitler, Pol Pot, Osama bin Laden, and Lenin.
Wow. When I read your book, The Family, when it first came out in hardback, Jeff, my notes on, I write notes in the flyleaf about what I was thinking about it, and my notes about it, I went back and looked, were that it was essentially to promote, it saw its role as promoting American power worldwide, unfettered capitalism, no unions, no programs to help poor people, all with this idea that godly, powerful, rich men should get as many resources as possible personally, and they should just privately help everyone else. That was the impression that I was left with. Was I close?
That's dead on the money. The Family Begin, it's the oldest Christian conservative organization in Washington, and it goes back 70 years when the founder believed that God gave him a new revelation, saying that Christianity had gotten it wrong for 2,000 years, and that what most people think of as Christianity as being about, you know, helping the weak and the poor and the meek and the down and out. He believes God came to him one night in April 1935 and said, what Christianity should really be about is building more power for the already powerful. And that these powerful men who are chosen by God can then, if they want to, dispense blessings to the rest of us through kind of trickle-down fundamentalism.
Well, do you see a connection between that larger sort of power theology and the fact that neither John Ensign nor Mark Sanford, for that matter, who's also affiliated with the group, aren't quitting despite these scandals? Is there something about this type of theology that tells these guys, hey, don't worry about the affair, you know, big picture, you're good, stay where you are, it's important for you to stay in power?
Yeah, no, I think actually Governor Sanford made it very clear when he cited King David as an example of the reason why he wasn't going to be resigning office. And that just struck a bell with me because the King David story is a core teaching of the family. When I first heard it, I was living with the family. One of the leaders of the family was explaining why King David was important. And he says it's not because he's a good man, it was because he was a bad man. You know, he seduced another man's wife, he actually had the husband murdered, and he wanted to explain why this was a model. And he says to one of the men in the group, he says, suppose I heard you rape 3 little girls, what would I think of you? And this guy, being a human being, says, you would think I was a monster. Well, the leader of the family says, no, not at all, because you're chosen by God for leadership, and so the normal rules don't apply.
When Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina talked about his relationship to this group, he's also lived at the C Street House. He described the group to the AP years ago, 6 years ago, by saying, quote, we do have a Bible study, somebody will share a verse or a thought, but mostly it's more of an accountability group to talk about things that are going on in our lives and how we're dealing with them. And you've written that members of the family give each other veto power over their lives, which with these 2 scandals, I mean, looking at the John Ensign scandal, how does a group like that not veto putting the mistress's kid on the Republican Party payroll? How does that not get outed by this group?
Well, because the responsibility of the other men in your accountability group, and I would say, by the way, you don't have accountability behind closed doors. That's the opposite of accountability.
Right.
What these other men are doing is they're saying, all right, we're going to look out for you. So it's sort of self-interest by proxy. And what they're calling accountability is a man might bring to the group, for instance, the fact that he is having an affair with another woman, or the fact that he is perhaps corrupt in some way, and so on. And these guys are going to deal with it internally. And very much behind closed doors, the leader of the group actually once said, what we do is, he uses pretentious Latin phrase, beyond the din of the vox populi. What he means is beyond the voice of the people.
Jeff Sharlet is a contributing editor at Harper's Magazine. He's author of the book, The Family. And if you think this has incredible implications for domestic politics and hypocrisy and affairs, wait till you read about third world dictators and how these guys empower them. It's an incredible story, and you did incredible work on it. Jeff, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks very much, Rachel.